All right. Welcome to English and Coffee. This podcast has been around for almost 200 episodes now, and I'm finally bringing it to YouTube. So this will be the first of many webinars to come. So let's go ahead and just start off. What is English and Coffee, and why you should listen to it? Well, English and Coffee is a podcast that doesn't water down the English just because you were learning it. You know how most podcasts and learning materials that they have for people studying language, it speaks like you're a baby, like you don't understand anything. My name is Paul. My name is Peter. Can I go to the movies? Basic questions that nobody uses in actual life. When you come to America, trying to speak that English you read in the textbooks or learned in class, it just doesn't work. People are speaking slang, they're speaking shortcutting words, changing up their speeds, as I'm doing right now. Just to give you an example, English and Coffee is an audio resource for anyone looking to get a better grasp on the colloquial English that natives speak amongst themselves. I'm going to talk to you like you've been speaking English your whole life. I'm not going to water it down. I'm giving you interesting content, interesting topics that you can talk about amongst your friends that also study English, but let you think in the language. It's one thing to just memorize a bunch of words, which most people do in the beginning, but after a while it gets old, it's not helpful. You need to learn words in context from native speakers. English and Coffee is free to listen to at any time, day or night. Like I said, we have almost 200 episodes. They're all available at www.englishandcoffee.org. You can go there and listen to as many as you like. Each podcast has about roughly 2,000 to 4,000 words. Transcript I just broke down the other day had, I think, 4,600 words. So yeah, I also provide a transcript for this podcast. But these are webinars here, so this will have a transcript, but not as of yet. English and Coffee is also bursting full of colorful language, idioms, phrases, and interesting topics to keep you learning. Things to keep you engaged. Every now and then I will, try to break down a lesson or something like that. I'll be able to do more with that on this webinar platform, being that you can see the slides and things like that. But most of the time I'll sit there, I'll change study hacks, exchange, listening tips. I know a lot of times people have problems with pronunciation, listening skills, finding good material to pick up, what to read. You can sit here and read Matilda, but is that really going to help you in a practical situation when you're talking to somebody at work? You're talking to people that are 20, 30, 40 years old, or maybe even 16, 17. Nobody's reading Matilda. Nobody's talking about Matilda. So I'm picking on somebody specifically with that by using the book Matilda, but you get me. Shakespeare is not going to help you in 2022. It's just not going to help you. Unless you're trying to be a professor at Harvard, you might as well pick something else. It's better to just read modern day articles, men's journal, women's journal, anything like that. That's going to be more helpful than some outdated textbook that nobody even uses today. English and Coffee is available on all platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcast, etc. So whatever platform you use to listen to your podcast or consume your audio, you can find me there. Who am I? My name is Demian, and I am the creator and host of the English and Coffee podcast. As you can hear my voice, this lovely voice that you better get used to hearing, because you will hear a lot of it, especially if you dabble into the podcast. I am also someone that studies a foreign language and understands the importance of finding quality audio to maintain a high level of motivation. I myself study Russian. I've been doing that, 5 years, pretty much on my own. I have a friend that I speak with. I've had other friends that I speak with. So I'm always engaged in the language. I watch movies. I listen to nothing but Russian music. That's what I do. So I will be helping you guys to get to that point to where you just immerse yourself in the language, even if you don't live in the foreign country. Because it's strange that people can live in the country of their target language and still not pick up the language. That means they're not actively applying themselves to learning the skill. Language is a skill. It's a system of many skills. You have your listening skills, your speaking skills, your reading skills, your writing skills. You have to decide what you want to work on. Do you want to speak a language? Do you want to speak English? Or do you want to read English and do nothing but read English? I'm sure when your friends say, hey, I heard you're learning English. Let me hear something. They don't want to hear you reading silently to yourself. So unless you can read aloud when you read, reading it like we're reading from this slide here. My name is Damian, and I am the creator and the host of the English and Coffee podcast. If you could read clearly like that, fine, but you won't always have text in front of you. So when they say, hey, do you want to go to a movie? You know, where this girl comes out of nowhere, this guy comes out of somewhere and hits you with some off-the-wall idea. Will you be able to communicate with him? For me, speaking has always been a key point. That was my whole reason for taking on the Russian language in the first place. But you're here because you're studying English, or whatever language brings you here and you found this video. I'm also a person that believes that the best way to learn a language is to integrate it into your everyday. It's not something you just sit down and have a session, 1 hour I'm going to study English or 1 hour I'm going to study French. No, you incorporate it into your everyday. Everything you do involves that language. If you can do it in your native tongue, you can do it in your target language. I am a lover of communication that enjoys the ability to exchange ideas with another through verbal speech. As we all know, speech comes in many forms, communication many forms, verbal, nonverbal gestures, things like that. But the ultimate goal, I feel, for myself and most people, is to be able to communicate the language freely, to express your ideas without, tripping over words, stumbling. We stumble in our native language, but I mean, when you're speaking to somebody, you want to be able to just speak clearly, communicate clearly. You don't have to have all the grammatical points, all your I's dotted and T's crossed. You don't have to be Einstein when you're trying to ask somebody if they want to hang out with you on the weekend. You want to have a cookout, basic communication, everyday English. Why have I created this channel? First off, to let more people know about this awesome podcast. Like I said, we have about 200 episodes coming up on it. I think I just recorded the 197th last weekend. Comes out once a week. But I want more people to know about it because I think this resource here could be a benefit to many people that just don't know about it yet. Also, I have created this channel to provide you with an opportunity to step away from the boring grammar videos and start using your English like a native. There's thousands of videos on here. We're going to talk about articles today. We're going to discuss what a simile is. We're going to help you use a metaphor in your language. Nobody learns English like that grows up here, right? I'm in America, the U.S. So nobody's learning English like that. Before we even go to school, we know how to speak. We're speaking, right? We're communicating. My stuff, I'll go ahead and tell you, primarily focused on communication, being able to open your mouth, say what you want in your target language. Also, I've created this channel to show you a different way of exploring the study of language, how to apply it to everyday things, how to utilize it. Don't just learn a language and put it in the cabinet to never be looked at again. You can sit there and read 50 books. Okay, I read 50 English books. Okay, well, tell me about them. And you can't even put together a complete sentence. What is that? How good is that? Right? Like I said, you won't have a book in front of you every single time. And when you sit here and learn these phrases about going to the airport, going to the bathroom, nobody talks like that once you get on the other side of it, right? Somebody might have a bad attitude one day and they say, what the heck do you want, right? That's not in your book. That is definitely not in your book, but you need to be able to understand that. Or somebody might be pissed off, cuss at you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do then? It's not in the book. You need to be able to grasp the native sound, colloquial idioms, the colloquial speech. Yes, you don't have to use it all day, but you do need to be aware of it because it's a big part of language. I mean, we have, I don't know how many dialects over here in the U.S., right? Everybody's not from Britain, not knocking on Britain, but everybody isn't, pish, posh, and a frock and all this stuff. That's just not happening. Over here, there's a lot of slang. There's a lot of slang. Whether you use it or not, everybody understands it. I can go anywhere in the States. Everybody understands me, and I understand most people. There are some dialects that I just can't grasp. Those people deep in the woods, back in the swamps, Louisiana, the bayou, stuff like that. Yeah, it could be a headache. But I'm going to show you how to utilize the language that you have, the English that you have at this point, and take it to the next level. So where can you listen to this podcast? Where can I start listening to the podcast? You can find the podcast at www.englishandcoffee.org or your favorite streaming platform, as I mentioned earlier. So I'll also leave a link to the site in the description below, in the comments. When you go down there and tell me what you think of this webinar, our first official webinar. Are transcripts available for the podcast? I mentioned that before, but just in case you didn't hear it, of course, just check out the website and click on Espresso. Interesting tidbit. You will notice that spoken English is very different from what you listen to in your class. As you know, we don't always speak in complete sentences or with a period at the end. So the interesting thing with the transcripts, as I'm speaking now, you see there's not a period in everything. There's run-on sentences, there's sentence fragments. I'm jumping from this, jumping to that. That's how you're going to read it. But that's how real speech comes out. You know, when you walk into someone's house and they say, hey, you want something to drink? You're like, yeah, let me get a beer, right? And they're like, okay, well, put the game on. You know, it's just back and forth, back and forth. Then they may say, hey, I wanted to tell you about this thing that happened the other day, but forget that. We'll get to it another time. See, how do you even put that in the grammatical structure? No, you just speak it. But it will be written so you can read it. The transcripts provide you with an inside look at the reasons that you might struggle understanding native speakers in social settings. So I just explained that a second ago. Last thing, before I go, once you figure out the best way that you learn a language, you can easily apply this to any other tongue. So if you use your process that you've come up with to build your vocabulary, to start working on your listening skills, to build up your confidence in the language, you apply that to anything. If you're learning Swahili, Afrikaans, whatever, Mandarin, you apply the same process. We are like computers. You know, we're supercomputers walking around, but most people leave them untapped. They don't tap into their mind. They don't tap into their system of learning and understand how they made it this far in life. A lot of people say, well, I'm too slow to learn a language, or I'm not fast enough. If you're speaking a language, then you can learn another one. It just takes a little effort. Memorizing words only helps in the beginning, right? This will only help you in the beginning. You know, you got to get the basics. Hello, how are you? Bye, can I, may I? But after that, you know, you need to be hooked up with a native as quick as possible, you know, and just getting words from context as you meet them, You can sit here and memorize a list of 500 words, but are you going to be able to put them in context? We take one word, like one that confuses a lot of people is get. Did you get it? Did you get there? When will you get it? This could mean a direction. This could mean, you know, obtaining an item. This could mean, did you get the point? I mean, it's just, some languages have one word for every single thing. We take one word and it could have 15 different meanings, but it's all with context. So you have to understand the context, and then you could use the word. Use your English at every opportunity. This means if you're at work, somebody comes in, they say, oh, we got a new guy. He's American. Don't be afraid to speak to him. Hey, how's it going, man? What's up? Oh, you speak English? Yeah, I speak English. Been studying it 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, whatever your situation is, you know. You go to a restaurant, they have an American menu or an English menu. Get the menu in English. Order from the English menu. Every opportunity, use your English. Each weekly podcast contains anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 words and at least 15 to 25 minutes of audio. As I said before in the beginning, it's chock full of idioms, jargon, colloquial English. And yeah, roughly about 15 to 25 minutes. I have been pushing it here lately, hitting that 30-minute mark, but what can you say? We get into it. You know, we sip coffee, we talk, we exchange ideas. It's a wonderful podcast. If you understood this audio, congrats on your English journey. So I want to applaud everybody that is studying English at this point and understands the words that are coming out of my mouth. Because if you understand what I'm saying, then that means you already know what it is. You know what it takes to get to where you want to be. Oh, and one more thing. I drink coffee. A lot of coffee. I'm drinking coffee right now. So, thank you for listening. Again, www.englishandcoffee.org. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And I guess as they say on YouTube, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.